Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the webinar of leveraging Qubole Cost Explorer for TCO optimization. My name is Dhiraj Seghal. I'm Director of Product Marketing in Qubole. And with me, I have my colleague Sandeep Dabade, who is a Senior Solution Architect. In this webinar, we are going to talk about how you can leverage Qubole Cost Explorer for your financial governance, for looking at your spending insights, for doing your ROI calculation with the help of the Qubole Cost Explorer for any workloads or jobs you're running for your data analytics, for your streaming analytics, or even your data science projects. So before we go there, what we have seen in the market over the time now is that cloud is omnipresent. Like for any type of new project you basically kick in, you are always using a cloud services. It can be from AWS, it can be from Google, or it can be from Azure. With cloud, the advantages which we, over the time, which has been seen is like faster time to delivery because it's pay-as-you-go model. You can spin up your infrastructure, you can run your workloads, and then get to the production faster. It provides you agility with respect to what type of services you want to use and how you want to mix and match. And then also scale, like if you want to spin up more and more resources for your project or workloads, you can do that and the cloud will scale. And with that comes a total of efficiency gains because the speed is far more and more. But with that, what we have seen over the time is there is a byproduct. As you scale, as you basically try to go faster, there is unexpected cost increase. And that cost increase is good also, but the rate of that increase is what starts to hurt, and limited visibility into that cost is also one thing which organization and enterprises worry about. Generally, what we have seen, the byproduct is regards to the lack of visibility at the user and workload level. To solve this byproduct challenges, we have built the Qubole Cost Explorer. So what is Qubole Cost Explorer? What we see it as a usage cost analytics. This is a pretty widely known industry term. People use it quite a bit in their discussion with respect to spend tracking, budget analysis, cost monitoring, discussion around planning and budgeting. So what with Cost Explorer we have done is we have looked into all the three areas. For the usage part, what we do with Cost Explorer is we provide you the total cost of ownership, and that is also in the units of Qubole compute units. With respect to the cost, it's the cloud VM dollar cost which you spend. We basically take the list price and then do the calculation of how much money you're spending on the VM basis within the cloud. And then also you get the cost related to the Qubole compute unit. When you combine both of them, there is analytics piece to it that what you start to get is insights into like the spend reporting, what type of workloads you're running, what is their spend, how long they are running, and what is the cost coming associated with that run. Then how do you optimize with respect to that workload? So Qubole Cost Explorer allows you to monitor, manage, and optimize your big data cost by providing the granular visibility of workloads at job, cluster, and cluster instance level. With this, what type of data we provide, what type of tools we provide you to basically do this type of usage cost analytics. You can track costs based on multiple categories. One is account levels. As you aggregate the dollar spend at individual account level, you see it with different infrastructure providers also, like you get cost with respect to an account from them. Then there is pre-existing tags, which basically can be used to attribute the dollar spend, and then the cluster itself. These things are basically also available with different infrastructure providers. But what Qubole does further is, which is very unique and differentiated and resolves the problem at the individual level or at the granularity level, which every organization is asking for, is like we provide you the cost based on a cluster instance level. So from cluster itself, how many type of instances, how many instances you have run of that cluster, we provide you the dollar spend at that level. We provide you the cost with respect to every job you run, right? Every individual command any user has run over the time, we basically start to provide you the cost attributed to that. And further, if there is one cluster, one account which has multiple users, we are able to attribute the dollar spent at an individual user level. So combining the user level, job level with the cluster instance and the existing other account and pre-existing, you get a really rich set of data to do your spend analysis and many other use cases. So for our customers, what we have seen is they have gone beyond tracking the cost with all these levers built into the Qubole Cost Explorer. They have done spend tracking. That is the regularly, like, they are able to track both cloud and Qubole spend on various assets. But most of the time they focus on is the building the ROI analysis to calculate the dollar spend on the use cases and see like what is the return on investment as they start generating revenue through these projects and use cases. Many times organizations, as they collaborate with each other, they share the resources, or there is a central data team which is basically providing the services. They're able to do showback type of discussions with each other. Many times people are able to justify business cases because with the pattern analysis, you see what type of workloads you're going to run, what type of commands you're going to run, and then say, okay, if I run it in so and so fashion, then I will have more savings. Planning and budgeting is a big one with respect to if there is a multi-tenant shared cluster. You can see different type of commands and what is their spend and what time it is happening. So you can segregate it out. You can plan it so that you don't hit the peaks right at one time, rather than have a spread of a budget with respect to how much you're going to spend for each organization. And the last one is optimizing the opportunities. These three in regards to justifying business case, planning and budgeting, and optimizing opportunities, we have generally seen it come from our customers rather than we were thinking about it. For example, for optimizing opportunities, what we have seen is product managers and other engineering organizations, as they go and look into different individual commands which have been run, they are able to see what is the margin they are making with respect to any account. So if they are running any inquiry and they are letting their customer run it and they're charging for it, so they can see how much revenue they are making and how much money is being spent at individual level within their cluster. And then they are able to do the margin analysis. So this is all good, but one thing which people worry about is this is all sensitive information. If all this information goes to the Qubole platform, then there is a risk of like, okay, am I oversharing my data with respect to cost with the my technology collaborator here? In that case, to just remove that friction, the Qubole Cost Explorer data lives within your cloud bucket. So it lives in your S3 bucket or Google Cloud Storage. That data doesn't basically come over to us. So whichever cloud storage you are using, we basically ingest the data into your cloud storage. So it lives there. So it really resides within your organization. And that helps us basically with the retention, custom applications, and everything. Further, the data is presented in materialized tables so that it's easy for you to do self-service analytics. As the data lives within your cloud data lake, one thing we have done is becomes easier for us is all the data access policies which you have for your organization, for your different team members, can be applied to this data. So HR cannot see the finance data, supply chain cannot see the HR data and all that stuff. So you can start building those, applying those policies with respect to what type of tables are accessible to different groups and different users. And the last one is, as it lives within your S3 bucket, the data retention policies, the storage policies of your organization can be applied to this data. So for any purpose, you have to make that data live for a month, 1 year, or just weekly, you can apply those policies, storage retention policies, and that's pretty much it. So this is all good with respect to the data ownership, but how do the users use this data from self-service analytics, from the materialized tables? So to get started with Qubole Cost Explorer, we have some of the out-of-the-box Qubole notebooks and dashboards, which you can use to get your data for your consumption. You can run interactive SQL queries. We have integration with Tableau and Looker, so you can use those tools to extract this data and then build a bigger dashboards with respect to other parameters from other work which is being done. And the last one is with respect to the Qubole SDK, which you can use to build your custom applications. From here, let me show you an example of how it will look. This is one of the examples where we built a TCO dashboard. And you can see here is there is a total spend, there is a spot expenditure, there's on-demand expenditure, and if you have a different cloud, then you will see there's expenditure here. And then you can start building the projections of those expenditure spot note savings, what's the percentage of it. Now, instead of basically talking with respect to this from the screenshots, what you can see and do in the product in Qubole Cost Explorer, let me ask my colleague Sandeep to walk you through a live demo going through a real life scenario of a retail use case. Sandeep, up to you.
Hey, thanks, Dhiraj. Hey, everyone. My name is Sandeep Dabade. So today, let's jump into the demo part now that Dhiraj has talked about Cost Explorer. So what you see on the screen is a Qubole Notebooks interface. I'm going to walk you through all 5 Cost Explorer notebooks that we roll out to our customers. So to start with though, just to give you a background, what happens is every day or every night we roll out the Cost Explorer data to individual customers' account, and that data goes onto a S3 bucket. So that I'll quickly show where that sits. So I'm clicking on this Explore link to get to this Explore UI in QDS. I'm switching to my Amazon S3 view, and there basically for every account there is a default location configured. So inside of that bucket, or you could also choose to have a different bucket configured for this Cost Explorer data to be dumped every day. So that's in this account, by default we'll dump it in the default location. So there is a folder called Qubole_BI. Inside of it there is another folder called V1, and then these are the 3 subdirectories where every night the data gets dumped. So this is a daily dump. Each of these 3 data sets are partitioned by environment, account ID, and event date. So every day you should expect another folder getting dumped into that individual accounts directory. So the expectation would be for you to run recover partition every day. So that is something as a starting point. So I'll switch to the notebooks view. So the 5 notebooks that we roll out, the first and foremost is the recover partitions notebook, exactly the one that will create the Hive schema if you are running it for the first time. And also it will also recover partitions or recreate all the partitions rather. And on a recurring basis, it will just start adding newer and newer partitions on every day. So as the data gets dumped every day, ideally it is recommended to configure this particular notebook as a dashboard. Here, you can just click on this dashboard icon and create a dashboard and schedule it to run at a 24-hour frequency. You can also say, I want to send get an email as a PDF or a HTML format or a PNG format and get it as an email. You can type multiple email addresses here. So once you do this, you're basically making sure that every day you're getting the newer data being activated, and then your Hive schema has, Hive tables have entries, basically partitions created in Hive schema. So once that is done, so next notebook that we roll out is the TCO Notebook. So this is these are all Spark notebooks, by the way. So it has, if you want to run it independently of the recover partition, the previous notebook, you could run it as well. Like the create table recover partition is a paragraph that does exactly that, recovers the partition, newly added partitions in Hive schema. There is this bootstrap paragraph. This is where you'll give your your start date and end date for which you want to run your analysis. So for this particular webinar, what I've done is I've given like a 3-month window. So once I run this, further down, I have a few paragraphs here that will give me the metrics around that consumption, your consumption in that period. So here it's showing your total EC2 spend, total spot expenditure, total on-demand expenditure, projected expenditure, spot node savings, and spot savings percentage. So Qubole is natively built for saving your EC2 cost, right? So one of the marquee features that Qubole offers is the intelligence around spot with and workload or auto scaling. So with Qubole, you can leverage as many spot nodes as possible. So this is a metric that tells that. So apparently in this particular account, spot utilization is about 16%, which is not that high. So we have customers that use extremely high spot utilization, anywhere from customers using 80 to 90% spot nodes. We have helped them optimize their spot savings or improve their spot utilization from somewhere around like under 10% to all the way to 75%. Further down now, you can look at this table view of your daily distribution trend divided by spot versus on demand. You can switch to the bar chart here, just drag and drop event date, let's say VM pricing type, which is spot or on demand, and then estimated VM cost. And this is give you a nice visualization of your spot versus on-demand utilization on a day, on a daily basis, right? So this is a daily trend. You can easily switch to a weekly or a monthly view as well. I'll switch to monthly view. So it will just re-render the graphic for me. It's submitting the job, recompute the data, and then it will show me the visualization. But yeah, you can easily do that. So now here I'll just say, instead of pricing per type, I'll just say, give me the month name and estimated VM cost. So this is my monthly EC2 cost estimated, because we do not know the exact EC2 discount that you may have. If you know the exact RI discount you have, you can specify it in the bootstrap paragraph. So I've assumed 0 for now in this webinar. You can also get a breakdown by spot versus on demand. So that's that. Further down now, you can now start diving deeper. By the way, what you see here is your consumption across all the accounts that you have with Qubole. So like Qubole customers typically end up having multiple accounts like this, different teams using different accounts. So this Cost Explorer primary account that is designated, that is decided by the customer by themselves. When they designate that account, we roll out all the data in that one primary account. So data across all the accounts is rolled out into the primary account. So what you're seeing here is the whole overall view. Further down now, you can do a breakdown, like you can start diving deeper now. Like you can regenerate the daily trend on an individual account, or you could also say that give me a breakdown based on individual EC2 custom tag that is attached to the EC2 nodes that are spun up through Qubole. So that will give you another similar view, spot versus on demand, or just overall if you want to look at the overall consumption by individual account or individual cluster. That's the trend that's given. Further down, like you can also get a breakdown by Qubole clusters. So every workload that gets submitted through Qubole is submitted against a cluster label. So typically customers use labels for identifying which team is using the cluster and things like that. So Qubole supports collaboration with which multiple users or multiple teams can share clusters. And with that, each team will generally have their own label. So that way you can get that granular separation between the teams in terms of their consumption. And now further down, what you see here is the top K paragraph, which will give you top clusters by either spot usage or by spot savings or easy to spend. So let's see, let's stay at the spot usage, because I'm mainly interested in improving your spot utilization, for example. So the spot expenditure and then percentage of spot usage based on runtime. So you can look at that. So there are some clusters that have low spot utilization. So you want to figure out what's going on there. Just make sure that that these are kind of low-hanging fruits that you can find, and then start diving deeper further, like what's going on. Maybe you're configuring the cluster, like maybe there is some improvement that can be done in cluster configurations and things like that. So that's overall TCO Notebook. So let's move to QCU Notebook, which is similar view, I would say. So instead of focusing on EC2 now, this notebook will focus on your QCU consumption. So QCU, as Dhiraj has already mentioned, is Qubole Compute Unit. It's a way of measuring your Qubole consumption across all your accounts. So here again, like around this is a 4-month time frame where I have specified the 4-month time frame, and that's where it's giving me total QCU on demand versus spot. Spot percentage is low in this account, but yeah, that is something that needs to be investigated and improved on. Distribution trend, again, daily distribution trend by QCU. Now this is a QCU rather than your EC2. So spot versus on demand, like the light blue are the spot bars and the dark blue are the on demand bars. You can like slice and dice the way you want it. Further down, again, breakdown by individual account, individual EC2 tag as well. And further down, let me just, yeah, this will re-render. Yep. So VM pricing type, you could pretty much do that on demand versus spot, QCU sum. I would also do event date and pricing type here. So that will give you that breakdown, spot versus on demand, or keep it just overall QCU consumption, spot plus on demand. Further down, you will again do you can do a breakdown based on cluster label, individual, so this engineer presto, let's see how that shows up. Yeah, so this is QCU for this individual cluster label. And again, top K paragraph, which is giving you just the QCU metric rather than EC2. Very similar to what we saw in the previous one. Next, let's move on to top workloads here. One thing I want to just quickly mention is when you run this recover partitions notebook, it's going to create this Hive schema entries over here. So Qubole, so it will create this table or the Hive schema called Qubole underscore BI underscore like your environment name and your account ID. So inside of that, you will see like 3 tables that get created, which is cluster underscore nodes usage daily. So this is where like every node that was spin up in your account through Qubole during that period, or like basically across the entire period, basically where the data is ingested, will have an entry here, right? So the VM ID is your Amazon instance ID, cluster instance ID is the actual cluster run ID, cluster ID, cluster type, whether it is a Hive or a Spark or a Presto cluster. For VM pricing type, is it like spot versus on demand or spot block? That will be captured here. VM instance type is your Amazon instance type. Example is like maybe R4 4 extra large or R5 4 extra large and things like that. AZ, and then this is the QCU, estimated VM cost, estimated runtime in that particular day. So just remember, if a particular node was running running for over a 2-day period, then it will have 2 records in this table, like for day 1 and then another record for day 2. So this is basically EC2 nodes. There is another table called clusters metadata daily, which will have the details about how you have configured your Qubole clusters, which includes cluster labels and cluster EC2 tags that are attached to that cluster configuration. And again, like when it was created and which environment, account ID, and the date. And lastly, the third table that is important is the command usage. That's what I'm going to talk about in a few seconds from now. This is where every command that got submitted through Qubole control plane will start appearing in this record, in this particular table. You will see what engine type it is being submitted as. Was it a Spark command, Hive command, or which, or maybe Presto. Command type will cover that. Cluster ID, cluster tags, again, this cluster tags is EC2 tags. Cluster instance ID, when against which cluster instance the command was run. More importantly, submission time, end time, duration, and status. So status is where it will show like whether the command succeeded or failed. So you can easily now find out how many commands submitted were successful versus what is the error rate in your cluster and things like that. More importantly, you will get your cost attribution of that command, how much QCU did that command consume. And lastly, it will also show you vCore seconds. So how much, what was the vCore slice of that command in that cluster? So how much, like for command level attribution, which eventually will equate to a dollar amount. So that kind of matrix that you can derive using this Qubole Cost Explorer feature. So yeah, so these three Hive tables, and then let's switch back to the demo part where we talked about recover partition, TCO, and QCU. Let's jump into the top workloads and usage. So this is where you'll get a deeper view of individual workloads. You can find out top queries by count, how many, like, so you have scheduled jobs that are coming into Qubole. You can find that how many times that scheduled job has run, what is the execution time of like top queries by execution time, descending orders. Then you can start diving deeper on those individual queries that are taking longer than expected. Let's see how that looks like. So it again, like other notebooks, there is this create table recover partition, which will, once it is run, it will add the new delta, new partitions that were created in the previous 24 hours, in last 24 hours. Here I'm giving the start date and end date for which I want to run my analysis. So now ranking workloads using, now this is where I'm seeing engine type, let's say Presto, give me query count. So here it's giving me a tabular view of, let's say, this identifier, this particular workload has been submitted like 512 times. Total QCU across 512 runs has been like 249. That equates to $106 of EC2 cost. Average duration in milliseconds. Average CPU seconds, right? So I can click on this easily and it will launch, it will show me exactly what that command looks like, and that's the command it launches. Further down, I can now do trained analysis, right? So now the same command I can copy it from here, and let's do the trained analysis of this. So I'm gonna run it. So it's gonna give me like all the occurrences of that command. So let's see, let it run through. It's gonna re-render this graphic, or rather this tabular view. And now I can basically sort it by estimated cost, right? And see like whether, so there are certain occasions where I see that, cost is significantly higher compared to the other ones. So that's something that you can start investigating. That some certain times this command ran costed very like negligible, versus certain times it did cost like a bit higher, like $8 here, right? So that's something that you can start diving deeper and see whether that is along the expected lines or it's something that needs to be investigated. So that's top workloads. And now let's move on to the last part of Cost Explorer, which is command cost attribution. So this is where you will get a breakdown per user uh, by their QCU consumption. So again, same thing, bootstrap paragraph with the time frame that of your choice. You specify that. Once that is run, you can start running this. Now here, what I've done is I've done a breakdown by users, right? So I added a series, a few frequent users of this account in this. By the way, yeah, so you can also add account ID here. If you don't specify, it's going to do across all accounts, right? So by username QCU, so it looks like one particular user has consumed a lot, versus there are certain users that haven't consumed much. You can go back to the tabular view, which will basically give you the entire list. And this is where you can pretty much sort it by QCU, right? So this is going to be across all the accounts. So you might end up seeing like a individual user appearing multiple times here, like this user is appearing twice, because it is a granular breakdown here, right? So if you want generalized view or aggregates rather, you could do it through this username and then using this bar chart. It's for users to download. You could easily download these results and use it, I guess, like from here, like, and then run your own analysis on it. That's it for the demo. Thanks for joining today's session. We have lots of resources on qubole.com around cost and TCO. Feel free to explore that. Thanks.